Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can see all your books too.
Great.
Wow.
Well, that's just a screensaver. Just a I wish I had that much shelf space thing. I have
Welcome.
that many books, but not that many shelf space. So
welcome. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Well, it's my great pleasure. Let me just turn this down just a tad. It's so bright here.
Yeah. Would you like permission to tape?
Please tape it because it's better for you to record than for me to try to email it to you.
Okay. You can just push the record button and you can record as well. So you have permission to record.
I don't need to.
Okay. So good.
Ordinarily, I record on with my machine and then email it to somebody. I've got this. But if you can record there, it's going to be more reliable.
Yeah, but maybe just record it just in case I don't get it. The odd time I'm not very technological. In case I got a backup. In case I and I'll come to you if I.
Let me get my microphone on, and I can do that.
Okay.
Because I usually record for people. And it's a WMA that will open up well if you happen to have a PC.
Okay, good. That's what I've got.
So we begin here. Let me get it to the correct place. And we are now recording.
How many sessions have you done, do you think, in your life?
Oh, thousands.
Thousands. Wow. Okay.
I've been doing readings professionally about 40 years.
Okay,
between
beautiful.
35 and 40 years.
So I'm talking to the right person then.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time. What I want to always put on the recording is the date. Today is the 15th of April, 2022. Yes. Kay Randal May here with Grant Cameron. And Grant, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
I will honor your request for how you want us to spend our time today.
Okay.
But ordinarily, I spend time beforehand to prepare. So what I have already done is prepare a great deal of my impressions. We'll get more as we go along.
Okay.
But if you don't mind, I would like to begin with the physical.
Good, sure. Go ahead.
And I know you're familiar with the concept of the aura and the chakras.
Yes, yes.
What I like to do is I like to look at the physical body, and I will primarily focus on that. But I also have, I always get some impressions about the physical, the energy body as well.
Okay.
For instance, I like to begin with the first chakra, the root chakra, which tells us a lot about the most dense part of the physical body, but also discusses or informs me about how grounded a person is. And I'd like you to be a bit more grounded. Okay. The British call this earthed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where a person is not dissociated, their energy field is really in alignment with their physical body.
Okay.
And I like to give a percentage of openness, which is something that I will keep on file. But if we ever speak again, which I hope we do, I can tell how that goes.
Okay.
It's about 64% open in that first root chakra, and 70 to 75 would be about the most I would expect. So I was asking what would be helpful for you to be more grounded. And what I was getting is it partly have to do with your food choices.
Okay.
I would like you to have a lot of greens.
Okay.
A lot of vegetables.
Okay.
A lot of antioxidants and anti-inflammatories in your food plan. But also, it seemed to me that if you could be walking, just gentle walking, would be particularly good, especially in nature.
Okay.
I don't know what the weather's like there for you now, and maybe you can't get outside, but that would be particularly helpful. So if you can't get outside, maybe going to an arboretum or somewhere where it's an indoor setting where you can be close to plants. So what I was noticing was some inflammation in the body, not necessarily infection, Do you
Okay.
have to get that?
No.
But
This is most important.
But inflammation.
Yeah.
So what I did then is I went all up and down the skeletal system, testing the bony structures, trying to get a sense for how they were, because that first chakra has so much to do with the armature of the body, if you know what I mean by an armature. And I did not detect any issue in the cranium in terms of, like an ongoing problem with some kind of a, concussion or something.
Yeah.
And the lower jaw seems to be in alignment. But when I connected with your teeth, I noticed a couple of things. Okay. One of them is the gums seem to be a bit inflamed. Do you ever do dry brushing?
No.
Okay, I would suggest it. Flossing, I presume you do.
Yes.
And then I would use a child's brush with the soft bristles, yeah, and use it dry, and just go once a day for maybe 3 or 4 minutes and do circular motions on the gums.
Okay.
And this will help with the circulation. A little bit of plaque built up too, I noticed, but in particular the upper right quadrant. So this would be in the maxilla on the upper right. The first molar, the second, let me just get this because it's a little faint here. Yeah. The first molar and the second and first premolars. Do you have any dental work in that area?
Yeah, I have crowns there. Yes.
Are they older? When were they
yes.
put in?
Well, it would be at least 10 years. Yes.
Okay. I would suggest you just might want to check them to see if they're still sound.
Yeah. Okay.
That they aren't leaking or anything.
Okay.
Because it felt like it didn't feel like it was a major infection, but it felt like there was something kind of amiss with those.
Okay.
Now then, as I moved on down, I tested all the vertebrae, and with every vertebra, I also then go into the organ systems that are associated with that.
Yeah.
Thoracic 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is right between the shoulder blades and reaching up toward the base of the neck up here. That caught my attention, particularly thoracic 2. So I followed the nerves down into the heart, cardiovascular, and I'm a bit concerned with the heart, in particular with some of the valves. And do you have heart murmur? Because I was picking up that you may have had one.
I did, yeah, previously, yes.
You had one. Mm-hmm.
I was reported to have had one, yeah.
So there was a history of a heart murmur. And I was getting that there were some valves that maybe are getting a little weak, and I was a little concerned about that. In particularly the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid.
That's in the heart?
In the heart. Those are the major valves in the heart.
Okay, I have circulation problems, edema in the legs, vascular insufficiency, they call it. So would that be related, I suppose?
It would be related because I also noticed an AV node issue. That is the atrial ventricular node, has to do with the pacemaking. And it would have to do with, if you have an issue with the swelling in the legs, etc., it often has to do with the strength of the circulation and making sure that the heart is pumping everything, correctly. And you really want to look at the kidneys and make sure that the glomerular filtration rate is up to par, because it feels to me like it isn't. Okay. Like it is, and that's the primary. Are you familiar with the histology of the kidneys?
No.
Okay. The kidneys are filters.
Yeah.
And of course, they're filtering the bloodstream and create the urine and everything. We want to be sure, and there, of course, there are hormones involved, the diuretic hormone. I don't feel this is primarily a diuretic hormone issue, which of course would be a pituitary issue and all that. That doesn't seem to be so. But I think we're looking at cardiovascular pumping and strength, And then we're looking at the primary um, glomerular filtration rate. And so it feels to me like it may be a low grade of issue with the kidneys, functioning. Doesn't seem to be a really, extreme instance, but it seems to be that I would want to make sure that your kidneys are up to par.
Okay.
And that the heart, the cardiovascular, that the pumping is efficient
Okay.
because it's the coordination of the pumping and everything.
Okay.
And that's what I noticed with T2. Then I went through T3, 4, 5, and 6, and I did not detect as I went through those, the nerves going to the organs, I did not detect primary problems in those organs. But I moved to T9, I noticed that, thoracic 9, and your adrenals are on the low side as well. And so the adrenals and kidneys are right together, and they are associated with T9 and T10. You're under a lot of stress or have been under a lot of stress. And it seems that that is contributory to many things. It's like a row of dominoes.
Yeah.
You want to know which one comes first.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's not so much about getting more hours of sleep, it's actually resting. Because it feels like your mind, you have a hard time turning off.
You got that.
Your attention. So I don't believe in a lot of medication for
Yeah.
such things. And I really want you to avoid alcohol.
Yeah.
I would also like you to be sure you're not drinking too much caffeine.
Okay.
How do you drink coffee or tea?
Coffee, yes.
About how many cups of coffee per day?
It varies. I was not doing much, and then it's 3. So yeah, I can cut the coffee. I mean, what about green tea? That's the same thing?
Green tea is full of caffeine
Okay.
unless you get decaffeinated. It's
Okay.
wonderful for you. Green tea is marvelous for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Caffeine, not coffee, not so much.
Okay.
But what's happening is you're overstimulating yourself with the caffeine because you are not able to turn off
Okay.
your mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you got that.
Um, so, and of course, that's that same area. That T9, T10 has a lot to do with the kidneys and the adrenals.
Okay.
Also, what I noticed, I moved on down lumbar 3, 4, 5, and down to the sacrum. Those are the lower 3 most vertebrae in the lower back. Lumbar 3 really showed up to me, and I followed that through. Prostate. There's a bit of inflammation in the prostate. Do you follow your PSA numbers?
I haven't gotten any bad ones back, but I mean, I just had blood tests done. I've never had a report about that, but
Okay. No frequency of urination or anything like that?
um, at one point I had sort of urination where I would have to go twice in 10 minutes and stuff like that, but hasn't been severe lately.
Okay. It just feels to me that there's some, again, inflammation,
Okay.
and that's what would cause that PSA number to go up. So if your physicians have said anything at all about that number being up a little bit, then
Okay.
more greens.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
it's green, I want you to eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a
And
lot of greens. I do.
yeah,
For many years I've done that. Yeah.
and that's wise. And then as a side thing is more rest.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't do one without the other.
Yeah.
Then I did not detect that the sacrum was out of alignment or anything, which is good. That's good news. Back back to the actual organ systems themselves. I moved up to the third chakra, which is everything in the middle part of the body. You seem to digest your food all right. That's good.
Good.
You realize about 75 to 80% of the people I talk to don't digest their food well. Your intuition is considerable, and that's what shows up there as well. So I think you're using your intuition and your other knowledge to choose the correct foods. that that feels particularly good. The good news and the bad news is that you're highly intuitive. Now, have you taken any kind of psychedelic drugs to
For
help?
one period of time, yes, I did psilocybin. I did an experiment with psilocybin where I did a number of sessions
Was that many years ago?
last year.
Just last year. Okay.
Yeah,
What happened from that, and I'm going to suggest you don't do it again,
yeah,
is that you really expanded your energy field, especially in the third chakra, and really open up to influences of other dimensions and
okay,
other ways. And the thing is that that's a good news and the bad news.
yeah,
Because what now I want you to do is to be able to close that down a little bit and get grounded,
okay,
because that's part of what's keeping you from resting as much as you might. There are a lot of interdimensional, I'll put it that way, connections
mhm,
that you are connected to. Some of them just other people, throughout the world telepathically,
mhm,
some of them in other dimensions.
mhm,
And it's like trying to sleep in a hotel when somebody's throwing a party in the next room.
okay,
It's just hard to rest.
yeah,
So I'd like you to do your grounding before you go to bed at night and really, really ground and center and try to clear.
and what
Obviously, you're not going to be able to go walking at that time. So
is that the main grounding that you would suggest is the walking?
no, the grounding for the walking is just in general. I'm talking
Okay,
now about before you go to bed at night.
okay,
I'd like you to read something that's really boring,
okay,
something that's dry, maybe academic, or maybe a child's book, like Wind in the Willows and
okay,
The House at Pooh Corner, something
okay,
like that,
okay,
so that you're quieting your your mind and these circuits.
okay,
It's good to memorize things as well. I use that a lot, where I just go through and memorize big long lists of things, because then if there are any intuitive intrusions
mhm,
around me, they're not going to bother you if your mind is just full of the names of the states and their capitals and things like that.
mhm,
But the main thing is to get telepathically disconnected as much as possible before you go to sleep, because you did really open up that those those channels.
okay,
The good news is, though, that as I say, you're digesting and absorbing your food all right. You're 66% open in front of third chakra. Excellent. 59 in the back of the third, which is not bad. The heart chakra is the one I'm most concerned about. That's only 63% open. And that has to do with that cardiovascular in general, the the strength of your body to make sure that the cardiovascular and the kidneys and everything is, you know, pumping together. Now, I did not detect diabetes. Did they check that?
no, I've never heard anything about that. No,
Yeah, because I did not detect that. I
yeah,
tested for that.
okay,
So that looks good. Um, there is some pooling in some of the veins in your legs. And I would suggest an assessment together with probably a ultrasound
mhm,
of those veins. With the usually it's with the cardiovascular person, but they're also vascular surgeons and such. And don't be afraid of that at all, because I've had some vascular repair done, and they do it externally now, just in the office. It's very
okay,
easy
okay,
because there's some pooling in some of the veins, especially up toward the groin area. And
okay,
that's part of your swelling issue. Um, I did not detect a problem with your thyroid. I looked at that. And up in the higher chakras, the sixth and seventh, those are nicely open. So for the most part, the issue, the major issue I feel is, of course, clearly getting inflammation out of the body, but then also getting the kidneys functioning optimally in cutting down on the caffeine, because caffeine is a coffee, tea, but caffeine in them really dehydrates a person.
Yeah. Okay. I understand.
And how much water are you drinking?
A
Just plain water.
a couple, say, glasses a day at least, but I know I should drink more. I can change this, no problem.
Once you get the you look at the lakes and you look at that pooling, you know, that's a separate issue. That's a physical issue. But aside from that, one could say the more water one drinks, the less you retain.
Okay.
And it seems
Yeah.
intuitive, but
Yeah.
I've
heard
it's
that.
true.
Yes, I've heard that.
Eyesight seems to be all right. And I feel that I don't feel huge problems with cataracts and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I just had my cataracts done.
Well, then that's why there are no problems.
Yeah.
So, and retinal detachment, nothing like that. So is there another thing that I have omitted because I didn't see anything else other than those teeth?
Okay, can I ask a question?
You can ask as much as you want.
Sure. I had a mass detected in my left armpit, a very enlarged lymph node, and they're relating it back to a melanoma I had 7 years ago. Now the final tests aren't in, but they want to do a CT scan next week. So if you got any impressions on that, they believe it's a metastases of the melanoma, but the melanoma was not very deep. It was only like a surface melanoma. So there's a lot of confusion there in terms of that.
Okay, I did not detect cancer in the lungs or, in the chest cavity or that kind of, area.
Mhm.
Definitely I would follow through with this, but my sense it's more likely to be a localized, issue.
Okay.
Something just localized, but it doesn't feel like melanoma to me.
Yeah, well, the melanoma was on the back, but the issue, I had a lot of pain in the one arm, which went on for a number of years, and they did an MRI, and that's where they determined there was this mass in the armpit, and it's very sort of sore in terms of. So they're waiting now to do the complete CT scan to see what that enlarged lymph node is referring to, what it's picking up on. So that
And
was
did they remove the mass?
no, they wanted to find, because it's in a difficult place. They wanted to find
See
out
if
if
it was melanoma.
well, no, see if it was related to the melanoma, a metastases of the melanoma from 7
That's
years
what
ago.
I mean.
Yeah, and so they say they were looking for a better place to do the biopsy, but I think they may be looking for another organ that may be affected to see how far it is spread. So that's sort of the mystery, and that's so
Right.
any impression you have on that, I would appreciate.
Right. Well, when I see it, it doesn't look like it has. It doesn't look like it has really encapsulated. It doesn't seem to be smooth around the edges. It seems to be more ragged around the edges. Um, it seems to me, it does not seem to me that it is a metastasis of the melanoma, but clearly you'd want to have it biopsied, but I don't see it in the lungs. And I would look for the lungs, I'd look for the liver, I'd look for the lungs, that's where I would look for metastases.
Yeah.
And I don't see them.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of the question is, there's no doubt there's a mass there.
There is a mass, but
what
it is what the question is.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense that it would be painful for many years and then suddenly emerge when the melanoma was sort of a surface melanoma. But that's the main
When
concern that I had in terms of,
with melanoma, as I have seen it, when it's something that grows rapidly.
yeah,
And if you've had this for years,
yeah,
I kind of, it doesn't seem consistent with what I am familiar with
yeah,
melanoma.
yeah. The spreading with the melanoma is apparently very, very short
It's
term.
usually
So
very aggressive.
yeah, yeah,
And so one would look at months maybe rather than years.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate that.
But the
That's
pain, and of course they would look for increased vascularization around it and everything if it were a tumor, could very well be, in what it looks like, it could be a backed up cystic type of tumor, the type of thing that many women sometimes develop in the breast area, where it's more of a calcification and tumor and such, and more of a cyst type of a situation. But clearly, if it is painful because it's putting pressure on the surrounding tissues.
yeah. It's on a nerve bundle. It's
It's
pushing
on the
against
nerve, yeah.
it's pushing out, I guess, a nerve bundle. So
Mhm.
there's a lot
And
of
that's that armpit nerve
yeah,
bundle.
yeah,
Um, so clearly, I think that even if they can't find another, site that you'd want them to do an examination of the vascularization around it,
yeah.
and
Okay.
treatment of that thing. So keep me informed. Let me know
Yes, I will.
what they
Yeah,
find, but
yeah, yeah,
that's what I would say.
yeah,
But I am concerned about the inflammation
yeah,
in the body, which may be contributing to this
yeah. That's possible. Yeah.
in
And
in
what's
a
the
general way.
best procedure to deal with inflammation? Would be food and water and
And rest.
rest. Okay.
Yeah, rest. And when this began, and when you first were, I'm just watching my time so that I don't get too long on this particular segment. Um, when you first noticed this, you say it was a few years ago.
Yes, a number of years ago. Yeah.
Had you had a major loss like 3 to 4 months before it started? Some kind of a loss of a loved one or a project or
Um,
anything?
Not that I can think of. That would have been about the time that the melanoma was detected, where
Mm-hmm.
the pain sort of started. And I was also diagnosed about the same time with congestive heart failure. And then they checked the lungs for the heart for blockages, and they didn't find anything. And then they just sort of released me from that. So that was about the same time. Those three, there was issue after
Yeah,
issue,
right.
and that may have been what you're talking about.
That could have been some of the strain of that we're seeing. But the heart, I definitely can agree that there's some issue there, especially with the weakening of some of the valves. Are you familiar with the structure of the valves? You know what I mean by the trabeculae?
No, no.
The valves have, and I'm going to stop this first audio file. If mine gets too big, I can't email it. So let me just get this, and then I'll get back to what other
Yeah, okay.
questions
Yeah.
you have.
Well, I appreciate this. This is probably my
Okay.
most important issue at the moment.
So here we go. Um, the trabeculae are like little cords
Okay.
that hold the valves. The valves snap shut and then they
Yeah,
open
yeah,
up. And
yeah,
well, when they cease to be elastic, when they don't do their job, then the valves don't totally close well.
yeah. Okay.
And there's a bit of backflow and
Yeah,
everything becomes more leaky
yeah,
in of the oxygenated blood and the non-oxygenated blood, mingle.
yeah.
And that's what I'm concerned there's a little bit of issue with.
Okay.
But that would be aside totally from this
Yeah, yeah,
piece.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, because
But
they did have
but the
the
very fact that this has been growing for so long, I just seriously doubt it's melanoma.
yeah,
But you definitely want to check it out. And the fact that it's painful is because it's pressing on those nerves.
Yeah, yeah, and it is happening here, but it's a sort of a public system of medicine, so it takes a while. So the CT scan will take place next Friday, where they're going to sort of come to some conclusion. But yeah,
Yeah. Then keep me informed. Hopefully they'll be able to go in and do something
yes, yes.
with
Well,
it.
I'm encouraged that you don't think it's um, metastases, because that's basically game over if you have the metastases of
Well,
melanoma.
that's the thing. But usually a metastasis of melanoma, we wouldn't be talking about years.
Yeah, yeah,
We'd
yeah,
be talking about months.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Melanoma is very
beautiful,
aggressive.
beautiful. Yeah,
Now, by the way, may I shift gears just slightly?
sure, sure. This is your. I'm yeah, you're the expert, so go ahead.
But you're the one you said 15 minutes this and
Oh no.
and so I'm following my directions. So this is a past life wound.
Okay,
Okay. So this I'm going to call it the mystery growth
okay,
is a past life wound. And I had picked up several past lives when I first looked at that. And they do, it's interesting. I don't know what your belief systems are. Obviously, you believe in past lives.
yes,
I know them to be true.
yeah.
But do you allow your beliefs to reach far enough to say that not everybody has every past life on Earth?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So you had a series of very early past lives, and we're talking ancient times in
Yeah.
the Pleiades. It
Okay,
wasn't necessarily on Earth.
okay,
So you have a strong connection to the Pleiades, and you are a contactee. I
okay.
don't believe you're a abductee,
Yeah, I would
but
agree.
contactee.
Yes, I had I had a bunch of major sightings, 1975, and fell down the rabbit hole, and have been consumed with it my whole life. But I don't recall ever being on a ship or anything like that.
No, you were not abducted per
Yeah,
se.
yeah.
However, that's not to say that you haven't been highly influenced by that
Okay,
early soul experience.
okay,
So I went back kind of from earliest, not from most recent, back
yeah,
past lives. And the one that was very prominent, you were in Britain, and this is recent, relatively recent, like within the last 200 years, probably
okay,
100. You were a scholar,
okay.
and you were probably at Oxford. Now, if you went to Cambridge in this lifetime, don't be offended.
Yeah,
But I was asking, was it Oxford? Was it Cambridge? And my guide said Oxford. You studied Roman and Greek influence on modern society in
wow,
that life. You were
wow.
quite a scholar.
Okay,
And have you been married?
yes,
Were you married?
yes, yes.
You knew your wife in that lifetime
Okay.
also. Do you have a daughter?
I don't have a daughter. No, I have a son. One son.
You have a son. Your son was also part of that lifetime. So
Okay,
that's interesting. But then from there, I went back and I'm saying, well, why in the world did he study Greek Roman society? Well, you were in Rome. Okay.
okay.
And you actually had an ancient life. You had several in that particular time. You may have been in the Senate. I don't know, in Roman Senate.
Yeah.
Um, but that wasn't really what's influenced you that much. You actually were a student of Pythagoras,
Oh, okay.
and you were involved in a mystery school. So I'm presuming that that was all tied together.
Mhm.
You didn't have to come back in this lifetime, but you agreed. In fact, you were having a great time in the Akashic records.
Oh, interesting.
In between, you, they probably had to drag you kicking and screaming out of the Akashic records saying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. You said, yes, 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 because you have a higher mission. And it had to do with the mystery school. You are here to help transform the world Um, in terms of their understanding of the interrelationships of not only this dimension, but of other dimensions on a personal, interpersonal level. So you agreed to come back, and this was part of the assignment from the mystery school, but it wasn't your mystery school. I mean, you belonged to it, but it was like Pythagoras or Pythagorean or something. There was another figure who was over the mystery school. So you were a student of that figure. And this particular thing that you're suffering with in your arm, that was a wound from way back in the Roman times. So pretty much you had finished with your karma, but then you engendered more when you came back. That I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because you are here to raise people's consciousness, to help people understand, especially younger people. It seems very, very important to look to future generations about the influence of the presence of more than just this dimension, and understanding how we are. Do you know what I mean by a syncytium
I'm
in the
not familiar with the
biological
word.
terms?
No.
It means how some cells in biology are all in contact with each other chemically.
Yeah.
They grow as a whole rather than as individual cells. Like a red blood cell would be more an individual cell. Syncytial cells are more a network of cells.
Wow. Beautiful.
And this is what we are. We are more of a network. Even though people might think, oh, I made that decision, it's on my own, or whatever. Not really.
Yeah.
So we're not only a product of our time and all of that, but we're a product of the consciousness of the time. And we are living in one of the most transitional consciousness times that there have been. I call it a node in history.
Okay.
And so you chose to come back at this time. You chose to meet up with these other souls that you had a little bit of unfinished karma with, your wife, your son, and some of the other people that you've connected with. But this is why I want you to stay away from psychedelics. Don't do that again, because you're already opened up again enough. You're already wide enough open, and I don't want you opening up anymore.
Yeah.
Energetically. It's just not a good idea.
You've got that dead on, because I've actually written a number of books on exactly what you're talking about. So.
Okay. Because I purposely didn't go back to check what you had written. I didn't want to be influenced. I didn't go to your website or anything.
Yeah.
Only because I didn't want to be influenced by that. Now I will look up and see what you've done. I've heard your name, but I thought, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting though. You talk about the coming back to raise consciousness of how reality. That's the way I describe I started with the UFOs, but now I basically say my main mission is to try to explain the nature of true reality, which I don't think people really understand. So go ahead.
And the reality is so complex, and it's on so many levels that it is, for most people, more than they care to think about. They would grasp it if they chose, but they prefer not to. Now, the best way to proceed, you asked about the best way. That was what you had in here.
Yeah.
You got to take care of yourself. That's what my guides were saying.
Okay.
That means following up on all the tests, making certain that your diet remains good, and cutting back on the caffeine, but primarily conscious wise.
Okay, I understand.
Not connecting to those influences that I would say would disperse your energy. Some of the influences that you had connected with when you were on the ayahuasca and other things are really draining you of energy rather than you gaining energy from it. So I want you to improve your grounding. I want you to laugh more and spend more time with those people that you really cherish, uh, because you have a lot to do.
Yeah, that was
And
that's my sort of my question was how to proceed. Is that if you listen to the doctors, I don't have that much time. So then I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I thought I had a lot to do yet,
you do
and
have a lot to do yet. Yeah.
so that's my main thing is if I've still got some years, I've got I either got to clean things up and get ready to go, or I've got to ground myself and other things. So I just figured that right now I'm actually at the peak of understanding and writing and stuff like that. So
And there's more to come. You do have to take care of
yeah,
whatever is going on. I'm not saying this mass is something that is totally innocuous,
yeah, yeah,
but they since they really don't know what they're dealing with, the doctors, they're going to give you the most dire,
yeah,
things, because then you can't come back and say, well, you said it was nothing. And
yeah,
so it's better that they amend it
yeah, yeah,
in a
yeah.
positive way. Um, you're going to foster mindfulness in all of its levels, meaning meditation, but also active meditation where you're walking and so. Now you don't have to spend a lot of time on the cushion, meditating on the cushion,
Yeah, yeah.
but essentially mindfulness in expansion of time. Have you done any writing or reading about the expansion of time through consciousness?
No, no.
Okay. Um, Useful time is what I'm talking about, perceived time, not
Okay.
sidereal or clock
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
That time is set
Yeah.
clearly, but our perception of time can be expanded. And so whenever you really focus on every detail, your useful time gets extraordinarily expanded. And that's what they want you to do. If you've ever been waiting for a doctor's appointment, like a dentist appointment,
Yeah.
you could read every single magazine that they have in the in the
Yeah.
waiting
Yeah.
room
Yeah. Yeah.
before they call on you, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's time expansion. It's because you're every single moment,
Yeah.
But we do it. I do it through my breath, deep, slow breathing, and being really in the moment. So working with time expansion is going to help you because you've got, as far as I can tell, it's a large thing to write. I'm not going to call it a book, but it's a synopsis or some kind of compilation that you're putting together. It's a project that you started maybe 6 months ago, but it's getting stronger and stronger. You're really going to love it, and that's going to be good. You're going to focus on relationships, especially with younger people. And I'm presuming this with your son, maybe with others younger. And write and research about how to adjust to the multidimensional universe.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Now, has your son shown any interest at all in art, creativity?
No, no. He's very grounded in terms of he's very stressed, but he's very grounded in terms of living just ordinary life. I mean, nobody that I've ever been in a relationship has ever really been interested in what I'm interested in. I've always been sort of the outsider in terms of, and people aren't against what I do, but I've never really had, the support there in terms of, so my son is like that too. He doesn't really, he respects what I do, but he doesn't really read what I do, or is not really that interested.
Well, just listening to him,
Yeah.
you might then suggest for him that he opens up a bit more to his creative side,
Yeah. Okay.
because this will allow him to be more productive
Okay.
in everything else that he does.
Beautiful.
Now, did you want me to go into either of those in more detail?
Either of which
The
the
topic about the past lives, or the topic of including the mystery school, or
uh,
the topic about what to do now?
let's see. a bit more about the past lives, because I've never really had a sort of a past life reading. I've never had a regression where I've had the past life. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating and I highly respect you. So I'm intrigued that you are picking up these specific past lives.
I do not recommend past life regression only because sometimes false memories
Okay.
can be generated, and when you pay a lot of money or whatever, you go to
Yeah.
somebody, you're bound to come up with something. And
Yeah.
sometimes past lives don't come up. The past lives that tend to come up tend to be the ones that we're working on now.
Mhm.
So clearly they have to do with you with being a researcher. Clearly they have to do with being a communicator and all of those things, a scholar, which is what I would say you are as a scholar. But with the mystery school
Mhm.
and the multidimensional things, really there's a connection here to sacred geometry.
Mhm.
And I'd like you to use that for yourself, for your own health and well being.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the tetragrammation?
No, no.
Okay. Are you familiar with scripture,
Biblical scripture, yes.
biblical scripture?
Yes, yes, I am.
You know the name of God that cannot be pronounced.
Yeah.
And ordinarily they translate it as Yahweh.
Okay.
Okay. The tetragrammation is that, and it's the vibration of the Hebrew alphabet, but it also goes back even further to sacred geometry. So essentially, it's a form of manifestation. And right now, what I'd like you to be doing is manifesting perfect health.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect vigor, perfect strength, perfect health, like a light just shining through your being.
Okay.
So envision for yourself that you are in the middle of a large geometric form. The simplest one that I would like you to think of is a pyramid,
Mhm.
a four-sided pyramid.
Mhm.
And if you can imagine being inside of that and literally in bliss.
Okay.
So this is where the mindfulness and meditation come in.
Mhm.
I would like you to use your breath, not any psychedelics, I don't want you
Yeah.
any, but breathing, slow, rhythmic breathing while you are envisioning this sacred geometry around you.
Okay.
In the previous lifetime, you studied the influences of numbers
Mhm.
and the influence of the symmetry of sacred geometry.
Mhm.
And the symmetry of sacred geometry is essentially um, that which helps to bring symmetry to the rest of the body. I'd like you to do this before you go to sleep at night as part of
Okay.
what you do to calm yourself,
Yeah.
and start tonight.
Okay.
As you're lying there, just imagine that you're inside of this.
Okay.
It can be any color you wish, but I suggest this beautiful glowing blue color
Okay.
that is the color of a flame of a gas stove.
Mhm.
You know, that blue, that iridescent blue.
Mhm.
And you just imagine these walls of this sacred form around you. What we're doing is essentially rebuilding and re-strengthening your energy field.
Mhm.
Cancer, in particular, results from a weakening of the energy field, especially not just the chakras, but we're talking about the layers of the field. If you ever read Barbara Brennan's book, Hands of Light, or Light Emerging, or the Rainbow Body book, or any of
Okay.
those,
Okay.
you see that the energy field moves out, and there are these different levels of it. And remember, I talked about the kind of jaggedness that there is over your third chakra,
Mhm.
and we want that to be nice and smoothed out. So it would be repaired automatically just by envisioning the sacred geometry because you've done it in other lifetimes.
Mhm. Okay.
If you had not done it in other lifetimes, it wouldn't work the same.
Yeah.
But what this would do is reach to not only your memories, because you're not going to remember this real clearly,
Yeah.
it'll reach to the soul's level. Now, the format that I believe the way we're constructed, and that's just the world according to Kay, but also according to ancient Huna, if you're familiar with ancient Huna, um, is that we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. We also have a high self, and the high self is running the show.
Yeah.
And the high self can produce miracles.
Okay.
And literally, or what we would call a miracle, literally what happens is the high self wills something, but it usually can't get through to the conscious mind and what we would call the body's own healing response until it gets through the subconscious.
Okay.
So the thing here is to clear the subconscious.
Okay.
So that's why I want you to connect with these shapes, these sacred geometry shapes, because subconsciously that'll help to clear it because you were clearing it before. Okay. In another lifetime.
Okay.
And you might have the Pythagorean or the Platonic shapes. You know, often people have those if they are interested in geometry. They're easy to get. But just to have them around is comforting.
Okay.
And the most powerful is the dodecahedron, but that's the most complex. But I would start with the pyramid.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is to clear out that subconscious and allow your high self to take care of any of these disharmonies in your body.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've always had sort of a break in the link with higher self in terms of seeing other people who can do it and saying, why can't I do it? So you sort of explained that, the principle that, because people say everybody can, but I mean, that's in theory, everybody can, but there's some people who can teach you how to do it. So I appreciate you giving me that insight.
Yeah, we call it spiritual roto-rooter job. So we want to get a little bit rid of this fear, doubt, all these negative things, any spite, any sense of needing revenge, anything like that. We get rid of all of that.
Okay. How do you deal with fear? What's your main way what's
the opposite of fear is faith?
Okay. Okay.
And it can be faith. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't have to be faith in any particular one system.
Yeah.
As long as it gives you comfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the importance is to recognize when those negative thoughts come up, to literally reinforce the positive. And I know you're in the middle of a situation where you don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And of course you're concerned and frightened at some level about it. And who wouldn't be? Everyone is. Yeah. So what you do is you understand that, you get that emotion that comes up, that feeling, and you say, yep, that's the way I feel. And I'm setting that aside right now because I really don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
And what I'm doing then is I am connecting to that which is the positive potential. And that is the moment. So focus on right now, at this moment. You are fine. You know, there you are, fine at this moment. So you expand that moment out and you make that moment be the one that encompasses as much as possible.
Beautiful. You've given me faith because I've got a lot of respect for your work and your reputation, that I can think back to you that, with your words, I take with great respect.
Well, I appreciate that, but keep me informed and let me know what they do, because like I say, I don't see that, but I don't see the melanoma as having because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me either.
But clearly there's something there.
Yes.
There is a mass there, absolutely. But the mass can be many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whatever it is, we want to get it out.
Yes. Yes.
Or want to deal with it to the best, that they possibly can.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways that if it is highly vascularized, nowadays, one of the ways they can do is go in and ablate those vessels so that it's starved.
Okay.
Sometimes they might be able to do that.
Yeah.
Who knows what they might do?
Yeah, like this is a lymph node, so I guess they would have to deal with. I'm not sure we're familiar.
Well, but the lymph node is not the mass. There's a
Yeah.
mass in the lymph node. Isn't that what you said?
It's enlarged. It's enlarged to 0.2 or something. They say after 0.1 or something, then it's a problem, and mine is 0.2 by 0.15 or something. So, but it's the one lymph node. I don't really understand. I think women would understand more because of breast cancer and the connection to
That's
lymph
right.
nodes, but males. So that's the situation. I'm encouraged that you see it the way you do, because that was the puzzle to me. Was this has been going on for years, and the reason I went there is I figured, I was going to get a shot of steroid or something, because his shoulder just kept bothering. I figured, they're going to say it's some ripped muscle or something, and finally a sports therapist would tell me, and then they come up with this MRI that shows this other thing, which sort of tipped everything upside down. But I really appreciate what you've told me, and it's encouraging to me, and I will definitely follow your word as much as I can. I'm seeing the doctor again, and I'm going to ask about the circulation in the legs, and maybe we can get it going from there.
Right, and follow up on the heart.
Yeah. Well, that will relate back to the heart, I think, in terms of
absolutely. The heart, and so you got a lot of systems going, but we all do.
Yeah.
We all have a lot of systems going, but the most important thing is to recognize we're in the midst of this multi-dimensional, communication situation that is vast, and it is extraordinarily amazing.
One last question in terms of
and I'm not certain that I'm picking up, for some reason. I'm picking up mine, but I'm not sure I'm picking up yours because I have my headphones on. So I probably am not getting your questions on.
Okay.
mine.
Okay. Well, whatever we have is I should have it recorded. Yours is just a backup in case mine doesn't work.
Right.
In terms of, is there any way that you can increase the body's immune response? Is there?
Well, absolutely. And that's what, and I'm just going to stop this second one. This is why you want to be eating as much chlorophyll as possible.
Yeah.
You want to be sleeping, and really getting rest and laughing.
Yeah.
And they didn't mention the laughter, but laughter yoga or laughter of any sort. As long as you can laugh, then you produce the endorphins and the immunoglobulins that are necessary.
I've heard that before. That's good advice. I don't
The
laugh
Mother
enough.
Teresa, the Mother Teresa effect is what it's called.
Okay. Wonderful.
That this has been studied and backed up, and they know that it's real. The studies where they can measure immunoglobulins in the blood, and people just looking at positive videos, in this case of Mother Teresa, but it could be of anyone, their immunoglobulin levels, which would be their immune system, went up just watching those things. So I suggest don't watch the news any more than you have to.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
And then instead of that, watch those things which are really inspirational to you and that make you laugh.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to talk to you. So I will keep you informed, and we may have another session down the road. And
absolutely,
you've been very encouraging, and I think you're right on the mark on a lot of things that only a few people know about me.
Okay. Well, I will shuffle off now.
Okay.
And I look forward to hearing from you. Please let me know the results of your procedures.
Okay. Thank you, Kay, and have a wonderful Easter. And
you too. Happy. I don't know if you celebrate Good Friday or Passover, but enjoy that.
Okay.
And
beautiful.
be transformed by it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.